Hey, everybody. We're just going to give everyone a minute or two here to kind of filter in, just because Zoom takes a second to let people in one at a time. While we're waiting, I'm always curious where people are dialing in from. If you want to leave in the chat what city and state or country that you're coming from, would love to see the familiar and new names, as well as just the different locations everyone's calling in from. Mozambique. All right. That's a different one. Mobile, where it's not raining like New York and Boston. Minneapolis, a lot of. Oh, Deb. All right. I was like, who has all this energy in the chat? And I should have known. Dina, Patty, New York City. All right. Just like Peter. C'est moi. Bay Area, Irvine, Brooklyn. All right. Hey, Leah. Amazing. It's great to see familiar faces as well as some new folks as well. Hello from Austin, Texas. Awesome. Chat cheerleader. That's right. We should pay you, Deb, to narrate these these webinars that we have. You such a great job bringing the energy. That's an idea. There you go. Um, Burkina Faso. I actually don't know where Burkina Faso is.
It's Atlantic coast of Africa.
Oh, wow. All right. Look at Peter just showing off his geographic knowledge. Jersey City. I know where that is. There we go. Charlottesville, San Diego, with the sun rubbing it in, of course. Um, Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining. I know we got even more folks kind of getting let into the webinar here, but we'll jump into this. Today, we've got a really phenomenal discussion, and this is really for anybody who is in the HR, people ops, TA arena, who is looking at their next career move. And we want to bring together a couple of experts to share the best practices here on how do you make this a successful job search, because these job searches are not always straightforward, even when you've helped shaped hiring processes yourself. And so, and in addition, this market is tough. It's tough because of AI and what that's doing to the number of people being hired, as well as just sort of the massive amounts of resumes that are spamming the ATSs. Today, we're going to be talking about what hiring executives and recruiters are prioritizing right now, how to sharpen your resume, your LinkedIn, build your network, how to avoid the common job search pitfalls. And most importantly, we want this to be an interactive conversation. So feel free to engage, add things to the chat, whether that's your questions, your insights, whatever the case may be. My own introduction. I'm the host here, Phil Struzula. If we haven't met before, I'm the founder of this company called SSR, Select Software Reviews, depending on how much of a mouthful you want. Our mission is to help HR professionals find and buy the right HR technology. So around 100,000 companies a month read reviews on our website about payroll software and applicant tracking systems and all the rest. And then a smart few who don't want to read a 25,000 word buyer guide about payroll will just use our free advisor service. So we have all these HR tech experts that you can talk to, get one-on-one help. It's free. It's rated a 4.9 star rating. If you're looking for HR tech, I highly suggest you come and check us out. We'd love to help you. We've got two amazing panelists today. So Peter, aka the Culture Doctor Phelan, he's got 20-year in-house talent career spanning multiple industries and culminating in a couple of chief people officer roles in global tech, and currently is the founder and CEO of Values Culture, where he offers a unique version of HR for HR. And what that means is that he's basically a headhunter for HR executives. He's proud to have placed over 60 progressive people and talent acquisition leaders in great roles in the last 30 months alone. And he looks forward to sharing his insights on what CEO clients are prioritizing in 2025. Peter, thanks for joining us. Amazing to have somebody that I've known for a while. Great. He's a good culture add to the panel, but also has the experience in the seat, chief people officer, and now has really focused over the last couple of years on helping folks get to their next point in their career.
Great to be here, Phil.
Yeah, yeah, awesome to have you. Um, Paige Luanag, did I get that right, Paige?
Yeah, that was good.
Okay, thanks. I know like in the practice I got it, but it was after you said it, so it was much easier. So I apologize. As somebody with a challenging last name, I apologize. It is a JobScan veteran, almost a decade of experience working for JobScan. And for those of you who don't know, JobScan, it's a platform that can help you optimize your resume for any job. It'll help you highlight the key experiences and skills that recruiters need to see with a lot. And we're actually offering a discount of JobScan. We're going to have a link later in the session for anybody that wants to use this to optimize your resume and LinkedIn to basically get a leg up in the job search. Because we all know applicant tracking systems, recruiters, whether it's a machine or a human, you got to optimize everything there. So thank you guys so much for being here. And I did want to note that we do have HRCI as well as SHRM credits offered for this. We'll send the logistics of that afterwards if you're looking to maintain those certifications. And we wanted to start things off with a quick poll because we've got a lot to cover, but we also want to cover what everybody here wants to understand. And so we're going to launch this poll in a little bit to see what other people, what everybody wants to hear about on this. And while people are answering that poll, the one thing that I wanted to make as a request is we're going to have a dedicated networking session in about 25 to 30 minutes where people are going to be able to share their LinkedIn profiles and connect with others on the call, support each other, share opportunities, strategize in the job search. We do this every single webinar. So I should probably rewind a little bit. We do webinars on almost a weekly basis now about everything from fractional and building your fractional practice to how to buy HR tech, people analytics, responding to Trump's executive orders on DEI, everything in between. And we have a couple of constants throughout this. One is networking. So we'll do that dedicated networking. Please don't share your LinkedIn before that. Let's do it in that dedicated networking session. And then we usually have some cool giveaways. So we're going to give the JobScan discount. We are also going to give away 5 people on this webinar, which is actually a meaningful percent of the people who are on here are going to get free LinkedIn premium accounts. So to just basically help people in their job search. So we'll announce those in a little bit as well. So thank you so much for sharing this information in the poll. Looks like standing out from other candidates, differentiation is a big thing here, as well as interview process, resume, etc. Peter and Paige, I would love to just kind of kick things off with what your perceptions are about the current job market, and maybe what's one thing that you wish more HR professionals understood about today's market?
Hey, do you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, like Phil mentioned, I've been in this industry for 10 years, and I think I don't know that I've ever been able to say like it's a great time to be looking for a job, and I think especially right now that the job market is tough. I don't necessarily know the HR job market any differently than the job market as a whole. But one thing that I always wish people knew was how important optimizing your resume is and how important it is to focus on the quality of each resume that you're submitting over the quantity, because it is so discouraging to apply for 10 jobs a day and hear back from none of them. And that is largely because the hiring manager isn't even seeing your resume due to, um, you know, just the way that job applications work today with resume robots and ATS and all of that.
Perfect. Yeah, that makes very good sense. My one thing would probably be more for the LinkedIn side of things. I as a HR headhunter, I never post jobs. You'll never see me on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, I got this thing." Um, Come apply to it because I just can't get the thousand inbounds and try and sort through them, and I'll either disappoint way too many people. So it's all outbound for me, meaning that you need to look good on LinkedIn for me and other recruiters. So for HR people, sometimes they forget to make their LinkedIn just as detailed with those impact points of, solve this problem, resulting in dollars saved, dollars earned, percentage attrition, reduced, whatever there should be some kind of number in there to show your impact. So yeah, get those bullet points on your resume and or the ones from your resume onto LinkedIn, so that you have, less chance of being overlooked as, you're not just an employee of X company from this date to that date. That tells me nothing about how awesome you are. It's the impact.
And we're going to have a takeaways doc after this conversation that we'll send everybody. And maybe Peter will ask you for one or two examples of LinkedIn resumes, or I'm sorry, LinkedIn profiles that you think are particularly strong from HR leaders, whether that's, chief people officer on down, just to get a sense for like, what does that really look like? What are some of those bullet points? Because at least for me, it's like, it's nice to see examples.
Yeah.
It makes it more concrete.
For sure, yeah. I don't know if I'll pick out single out some poor unfortunate and have
Maybe
all.
some screenshots, maybe not with their name and just
Yeah,
like, hey,
yeah,
here's what the description looks like.
happy to. That sounds awesome.
Um, what are you finding that, your clients are basically CEOs looking for senior level HR professionals. What is in demand right now? What are they saying to you they need to see?
So it is a little bit of a white collar recession, I think. I don't want to be too alarmist about it, but just the number of my friends, my network that are looking or a bit underemployed right now.
Mm,
So they're looking what the CEOs to stand out. They're looking for impactful business people who just happen to have a deep domain expertise in people and talent. So that kind of business acumen, which can be underscored by some of those impact bullets where you are, cutting recruiting costs. No, don't cut recruiting costs. Hire me and maybe Paige. No, but something that shows that you get it. You're not just looking to have an amazing employee experience without also thinking, okay, what's the most efficient way to create an amazing employee experience that's most aligned with our budget, most aligned with our business success. So we're maybe best known as the awesome destination employer for this awesome value add that we give to our clients. So it's all that alignment, I think, is super key. And they're looking for stability as well. They can be so picky in a quasi white collar recession. So um, if you jumped around a lot, bigger employers, smaller employers, startups didn't used to care about that. Now all of a sudden they think, oh yeah, stability is important, so that you can maybe stick with us through thick and thin. You won't be, off to the races at the next great resignation. You might actually hang around. So they like some of that. And there's, you can't necessarily change your job history. So I can't wave a magic wand and change people's pasts who may be listening in or viewing. But there are ways where you can get the most out of your stability on your LinkedIn or your resume. Some people, trip up by if their company was acquired, leaving it as two different LinkedIn entries. And maybe you do leave it as two, but you write in big bold letters at the top of the more recent one, we got acquired. And then all of a sudden you're going from a job hopper to a success story who was part of an exit. Or if there's, gaps on your resume and you did 3 month consulting gig or whatever, then you got a bit more stable later on. All of a sudden that 3 month consulting gig that you were in for the midsection of 2021 may not be worth having on there anymore because it looks like you were jumping around, especially if the previous job ended in early 2021 and the subsequent job began in late 2021. It can just be, it can disappear. So yeah, I'd say look for edit your profile for impact, stability, business savvy, and you might just stand out from the crowd.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And somebody put in the chat, one thing somebody asked was what's going on in fractional. And Miriam, I don't know if you can post the links perhaps to the last two webinars that we did on fractional, because we did one on kind of how to build, how to get your first client, how to build that business. And then we did one last week about how to scale that business, how to get your second, third. And we can post the recordings to that if anybody's interested in going down that route. Somebody else posted, hey, I've been through a couple of rifts as well as a couple of short-term contracts since 2020. Any advice there? Like it seems like maybe the contracts you could put under one kind of heading. It's like, hey, part-time chief people officer, or whatever you want to call it. Each bullet is like a company or something like that. But how do you tell that story? Maybe, you've gone through a couple of bumps, like you just picked the wrong companies that, since 2020, there's been a lot of carnage out there. And I was actually talking to a friend yesterday from business school who's just been pretty unlucky as well. How do you tell that story, LinkedIn or resume?
Yeah, I'll go first. I think your idea of having a banner of, Phil's HR consulting or whatever, and then naming the contracts underneath it can make it look a bit less job hoppy. And so that's definitely one strategy. And when it comes to those riff scenarios, I usually encourage people to go ahead and say it. That's the reduction in force ended the assignment as one of the bullet points. You might not put it lead with it, have them see all the nice impact bullet points first, and then and then it ended because of this. Because people get it. It's been such a tumultuous time. If you don't say it, then and there's a gap right after it, they might be like, okay, why did he or she leave? And people will fill in the gaps in ways that might be less flattering, than a riff. But if you rift, then you're not a job hopper by choice. It's just this crazy era we've been through.
Hmm. Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
from an applicant tracking system standpoint, I don't think it matters as much how you choose to list those, but you should make sure you have a clear work experience section. Um, and also you should always include the month and year, even if you do have these shorter employment stints, or if things didn't work out, or if you have gaps in employment, the last thing you want to do is try and hide those or cover those up. I also will say you might feel like you're the only person that has some of those gaps, but you're absolutely not. And I think once you get into an interview and hopefully make it to an interview and can explain those a little bit, I think most hiring managers completely understand gaps in employment for whatever reason that you have them.
I'm gonna I'm gonna double click a little bit, Paige, and just ask you for any other kind of tactical advice on resumes, LinkedIn, that, the sort of the job scan. I think you guys have, I don't even know how many, resumes and whatnot you've helped out with. My guess is it's a whole lot.
Yeah.
Like what are some of the other best practices? And at the same time, I'm actually going to put a link in the chat if anybody wants to check out JobScan, because they were been nice enough to give us a 20% discount. So you can check that out there too. But
Yeah, so basically every time you're applying for a job online, whether it's obvious or not, you're applying through an applicant tracking system or a resume robot. Um, and what's important when you're applying through an applicant tracking system is that all of your information is really simply formatted. Everything has simple headings like work experience, education. Your dates of employment are really clear. You don't have weird things like columns or unusual fonts. It's not the resume that you're applying with should not be like your most beautiful, um, interesting looking resume. It should be the one that the resume robot is going to be able to read clearly. So you can save that beautiful one for the interview and use it then. But keywords are going to be the most important thing you do. JobScan is one resource that can help you identify which keywords are important in each job that you're interested in. And it helps you to translate that onto your resume and add those important keywords that are going to help the recruiter find you within the ATS. They search by keywords most often. So whoever has a specific keyword listed the most number of times in their resume will jump to the top of their search list within the ATS. Trying to think if there's anything else I usually tell people. People worry about PDF versus doc files. There are more important things. Both are fine. Yeah, I mean, I'm full of ideas, but I think those are the basics.
It's basically the robots are not super smart, so make it easy for the
Exactly.
robots to understand who you are and that you're
Exactly.
relevant. Otherwise, you're going to be at the bottom of the pile. And I was actually talking to the CEO of Greenhouse a month or two back, and they're one of the larger applicant tracking system companies out there. So they're collecting probably millions of resumes on a daily basis. And he was saying that one of the things that's really happened over the last year or so is so many people are leveraging AI to apply for jobs. And so a job post that might have gotten 100 applicants in the past is getting 400, 500, 600 applicants.
Yeah.
And so it makes it even more challenging to kind of rise above the noise.
Right.
Go ahead, Paige.
I think the stat we use is 200, an average of 250 applicants per job posting, but there is such a range. I mean, I have
Mm.
spoken to hiring managers who are getting, upwards of 1,000, and they just can't possibly look at every resume. So the ATS are really a necessary evil for the hiring managers.
Without a doubt. The only thing that I'll sort of chip in here, so I unfortunately, my first job out of college, I got laid off in 2009, and it was a pretty bad economy. I think we are in probably a full-blown white-collar recession, it seems like, these days, despite the unemployment number seeming to be low. Just all the anecdotes you hear are pretty negative. And back then, it was potentially even worse. And I think the only thing that sort of saved me was continuing to do work. So I actually worked for free for two different startups full time in addition to job searching. And I was able to do that because I was 23 and I had no expenses and I was on unemployment. And that was like enough to cover a room for me basically in New York City. But um, whatever you can do, in my opinion, to continue to upskill and just get better is huge throughout this time. And it's good for your mental health and your confidence, but it's also amazing when you're in the interview process and maybe you're that person that went through a couple of rifts and a couple of short stints since 2020. But I've been spending 6 hours a week learning how to leverage LLMs for HR processes to how to, and I can set up your onboarding process in like 6 hours, right? Like that's pretty compelling.
Certifications are awesome, especially if you, I mean, for anybody, but if you're looking to shift careers in any way, certifications are a great, affordable way to add some of those more relevant keywords to your resume. Having a skills
Mhm.
section in your resume is one where you can just kind of load it up with those keywords that the hiring manager is looking for. And things like this. I mean, I can't stop looking at the chat. That's always my downfall on these. But things like this where you actually get to see that you're not alone in this, that there's so many people going through um, what feels like a lonely job search. I think this is great just for people to be able to feel less alone and see that it's hard.
Yeah, yeah, amen to that. And I'd say supplement the likes of this with the IRL versions as well. I'll be I'll be doing three networking HR networking events in New York City this week, and yeah, it's just great to expand that network so that maybe next time you see a job posting at company X, you know somebody at company X.
Hmm.
Which can, the whole the working around the system thing is I'm fond of that as well. If I see a job posted for an HR leader and they have their usual 1,000 applications already showing, even though it only got posted yesterday, I may mention that in an outreach to somebody at the organization, say, hey, any chance you might introduce the culture doctor to the hiring manager, which of course is bad news for those poor 1,000 people who applied, because they may just throw up their hands and say, yes, let's give it to a search firm, because we're so exasperated and our poor um, robot is also in tears. But that's just my version of the, networking your way into an interview. The other one, is just having that extensive network to where you know somebody, or you know somebody who knows somebody at the organization. So maybe that's how you get noticed, versus keyword optimization. I think it's so competitive out there. Do both, is probably the takeaway. But yeah, New York Tech Week, for those many people on the call who are in this neck of the woods, great chance coming up in early June to just go to a bunch of sessions and maybe talk to non-HR people. And they aren't competing with you for the same jobs. So I'd say, yeah, get out there, get into the real world.
I think it's great. Great advice. We're going to do some networking here in a couple of minutes. And then we actually have a Slack community for HR job seekers, which I'll post as well in a few minutes, because we have a job board that I'll post as well in a few minutes, for folks who are looking for HR jobs. And two people last week actually emailed me and said, hey, I found a job, which I thought was crazy, because like I'm not even like related to this. Like if you go on our job board, I don't think I'm on there. Like they somehow figured out like I'm tangentially related to this job board. So anyways, we're gonna post those things in a second. Um, but wanted to first call out. So we've got 5 LinkedIn premium seats to give away here. And Miriam, if you wouldn't mind putting the people's names in the chat. But our winners are, drumroll please, Stephanie Jordan, who's been commenting. Thank you, Stephanie. Heather Howe, David, who's been commenting, David Bard, Susan Barr, and then Leah Ward. Leah, great to see you in here as well. So we will follow up with you, so that you can take advantage of this. Hopefully, it's impactful for your networking, your job search, all that stuff. Yeah, it's just hopefully it's a nice help, in addition to the networking that we'll get into in a second, as well as our job board and whatnot. Um, Another sort of giveaway here, that I wanted to talk about. So I mentioned briefly what I do at the beginning of this call, but if we haven't met yet, my name's Phil, and I run this business, Select Software Reviews. And every month, around 100,000 companies use our research to figure out what HR software to buy. So applicant tracking systems that we've been talking about today, ATS, payroll systems, performance management, EORs, HRISs, PEOs, all the fun acronyms, basically everything nobody wants to actually buy, because it's kind of like banging your head against the wall. It's not very fun, and everybody's got too many other things going on in their lives. And so we have the reviews on our site, but I think the most impactful work that we do in the HR community is we have a team of advisors, and what they do is they talk one-on-one with HR leaders at companies, and they understand the solutions that those companies should be looking at. So you can literally call these people up and say, hey, I'm at a startup, or I'm at a huge company, I'm at a medical device company, I'm at a manufacturing company. We need a new payroll system. We need to move off our PEO. I'm sick and tired of insert, pay/ADP here. Enough is enough. Customer service is terrible. We got to get out of here. And we will look at your business and make recommendations of systems that you should be looking at. We'll make warm introductions to a couple of those vendors. We've got pricing data, so you make sure you buy the right price. We can just basically hold your hand, almost like a concierge, as you buy this software. So I'm going to put in the chat. There's a link to book a meeting with one of our advisors. If you're in the market, you're looking for a new HRIS for your company, a new applicant tracking system, performance management, whatever the case may be, book a time. And then, as the slide says, a couple of things. One is it's totally free. Two is we do have a 4.9 star rating. Basically, people like it when we do their work for them, and make sure that you buy the right software. And then three, we actually have a giveaway here. So if we can help you buy the right software, we'll give you a gift card that you can spend on coffee, stay caffeinated throughout the HR software buying process, or you can go and take your friend out for wine, or whatever you want to use that on. We won't judge you if you go out and go out for drinks with your friend. The other thing that I'll mention as well is we actually have a referral program. And so if you are running a fractional business, or otherwise have a network of HR professionals, you want to send folks to us to help, you can do that and earn a little spiff as well. So yeah, that's basically our offering here at SSR. With that, I'd love to get back to this conversation. And one thing, hindsight's 2020, and I'm wondering, both Peter and Paige, what are some of the mistakes that you find people are making in their job search that are just like very avoidable? And this could be, hey, I'm underemployed or out of work looking for something, or it could be, hey, I'm chief people officer, I'm looking for my next gig. What are the things that we need to avoid?
Paige, you want to go first?
The first thing that comes to mind for me is I said this in some form before, but applying just for jobs because you want to hear back about anything. I think you should think of it like every job you're taking the time to apply for should be one that you would be really happy getting an offer for. And not just, throwing as many applications out there and seeing what sticks. I think you're allowed to be just as picky as they're going to be in choosing people, because it ends up just being a waste of time if you're applying for something that even if you were to get an offer, you wouldn't want the job anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Or if you take it, then you're just going to continue your search because it was just any port in a storm, and then you're going to have some splaining to do to your next employer who might be amazing. It's like, why are you leaving that one so fast? There's just a lot of, damage control, even if you get the job for the spray and pray approach. I'd say, getting your story straight is the thing that some people fail to do. Meaning, just that polished LinkedIn profile with the story you're most proud of about your career, just the words you use, the examples you can give about the stuff that where you have really made an impact and you've been excited to do so, and you've maybe experienced some flow. That should be coming across, in your LinkedIn profile and in your resume. So it doesn't mean they can't be somewhat broad things where you could be a director of people or a director of people ops or an HRBP. They may be broad enough to where you're not looking so specialized that you're ruling yourself out of perfectly good paths. But definitely stake your claim to your area of expertise, and don't go too broad either in your spray and pray, as Paige alluded to, although those my words, my phrase, my weird phrase.
Gonna feel
Um, uh,
that.
but yeah, so definitely stake your claim to what you're best at, because that'll lead to better interviews, better advancement when you do get an interview. Yeah. So be specific. Stake your claim.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see somebody in the chat said something along the lines of, sometimes you have to be desperate. Sometimes you have to take whatever you can get because, you need an income. Absolutely. I think my point is if you have, you know, a limited amount of time and effort to put into a job search, put it all toward those jobs that will be the right fit for you, rather than, you know, spreading yourself thin across even more jobs. Um, in my opinion, and from what I've seen, that will actually get you hired faster and it'll be a better long-term fit.
Yeah, I think that's right. We got to be realistic about bills to pay and stuff. Yeah, so maybe if you do find that, any port in a storm, you may even, and they really love you and you don't love them quite as much, maybe you tee it up as a consulting thing versus full time. And then it's like understood that this isn't your forever home, but they also get to, tap your services for a nice chunk of time.
That's good advice.
I think the biggest thing that I see HR folks in particular not doing is selling themselves. I think that in an aggressive way. So I think HR people tend to be extremely humble. I don't know why that is, but at this point, I've probably met more than 10,000 HR professionals being in this industry for 10 years, and they don't brag internally. They do something great, and the CFO, CEO probably don't even know about it. And I think it's true in the job search as well, where you don't see people basically treating this like a sales job. And it's like, hey, here's a role that I really want. My advice would be to figure out who the hiring manager is and send them a bespoke email, connect with them on LinkedIn, probably the same to the recruiter as well, not in an annoying way, but to reach out, because I think probably 1% of those 500 people who apply for that job or less are going to do something like that, and that's going to give you a much better shot at getting that interview and getting through the noise that's happening in the ATS and throughout the hiring process. If you're that 3 or 4 people who reach out and say, hey, saw this post, I'm perfect fit. Here's why I'm super interested in it. Here's my relevant expertise. Just make it an easy yes. And in that interview process, to really nail your story, those impact points in a way that may feel a little bit uncomfortable to a lot of folks in HR, but I think is a little bit of what you have to do in this job market to stand out and win, basically. And you use the word win very intentionally.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. That's a good point.
Mhm.
Let's pause here for a second. Let's do the networking. So if you want to connect with folks who are on the chat, please feel free to post your LinkedIn URL in the chat. I'm going to post mine here. Anybody is more than welcome to connect with me. I'm happy to try to help wherever I can. And basically, if you're putting your LinkedIn URL in here, you're sort of saying the same, right? You're saying, hey, I'm opening, chatting with folks, connecting, maybe a virtual coffee. And just building the community here and trying to help each other out. And part of this, by the way, some of it's networking and saying, oh, you're in DC. I've got a friend in DC who's trying to hire somebody. Like, that's great. But I think a lot of it is in the job search. It's really like mental health and energy. It doesn't matter if you've got a great job and a great salary right now, or you're underemployed and feeling the stress of your monthly bills and mortgage payment. It really, that person's probably more stressed out than this person, but this person, even still, you're going through these interview processes, you're facing rejection. It's hard not to take it personally. And there's a lot of highs and lows. You get, super excited about a job. You make the third round interview. You don't get the job. You're figuring out, do I even want to take this? Is this worth it? It's got these things wrong with it, right with it, whatever. And so I think a lot of it is just that community aspect and talking to somebody. I know for myself, we should probably, put this somewhere, but it's sort of a mental health routine is super important around exercise. Uh, I mean, this is TMI, but like every morning, like I do like a short gratitude journal when I make my cup of coffee, try to exercise at least 20, 30 minutes a day, try to get your 10,000 steps, try to do at least 10 minutes of breath work. I use that app Headspace. I try to do 100 minutes a week of meditation, eat right, sleep right, see your friends and family, do the fun things, don't drink too much, don't have too much coffee. That sort of stuff is really foundational for something that's hard, and figuring out your next career step is hard, whether that's, again, I'm a chief people officer at a 100-person company, I want to go to 500, or it's I worked at a company for 25 years, I lost my job, and I'm like, whoa, I haven't job searched for, since like the 90s or something like that. Like, how do I even do this? I think those mental health aspects are very, very foundational to this sort of stuff. Um, okay. We've got many more topics to cover, not enough time per usual. But we'll try to get through some of this stuff. I'm wondering, Peter, from your perspective, you're positioning yourself for a leadership role. What are the keys? How do you stand out? How do you get in there and impress them and get the role?
Yeah, I had it's kind of a little bit ties to your last point about, working the system and kind of finding your way in and the direct outreach of the hiring manager. When I was in house, of course, I loved building high performance people and talent teams then as well, like I do for others now. And this one candidate, not in the market, I guess it was a couple of years after your layoff situation, Phil. But the market still wasn't amazing. It was still recovering, maybe in like the early 2010s. And I had a kind of right-hand person role open on my team, and then this one candidate worked their way in through the connection channels and wowed me with a very beautiful PowerPoint presentation on why their skill set matched up so perfectly to the role we had posted. And talk about standing out, it was her husband happened to know the CEO, and he kind of worked his way in that route and got to be. And anyway, she got hired and was awesome. Wasn't just a great PowerPoint, it was a great person. So, yes, I'd say people should see if they can still do that. Um, and now I forgot the question because I was so excited about the anecdote. Remind me.
How do you position yourself to get one of these leadership roles
Okay, yes.
specifically?
Yeah, do what they did, but I guess not necessarily we're focusing on the networking or your way in. But if you're in the interview setting, you've been lucky enough to get the meeting. Yeah, I think the way to present yourself is as this business person who happens to have this deep expertise in people and talent, so that all of your recommendations are kind of informed by the business's goals. And that's an important framing. Um, definitely have all your ducks in a row from your resume. So examples at the ready of when you accomplish these things that their business is trying to accomplish, or built out these programs within the people and talent team that the job description says that's the work you'll be doing. And so have all those things, at the ready, specific with the timelines, the percentage saved, the amount of hires, say, in this rare skill set type of engineer or whatever, somehow identified and onboarded in this very impressive few number of months. So yeah, just really show you care by doing the homework and having examples of how you knocked it out of the park on each one of those bullet points that they've shown are important to them because they're in the JD. Um, and you're also going to read beyond the JD, recent press on the organization, congratulate them on their recent round of funding, and maybe the caliber of the VCs or the private equity partner they might have. So yeah, just read around the topic and come in there as a problem solver.
What is and by the way, what you're saying about this PowerPoint thing, it just makes me think about this thing Gamma app, which is one of the many AI tools out there now where you can create a presentation in like 30 seconds that looks really good
Yep.
and is super bespoke. Really incredible. Like I think about, I think the past or the current generation always looks back to the past and was like, oh my gosh, there were so many opportunities, right? Like imagine being, in the peak of your career in like the mid 90s and like all the crazy stuff with the internet or whatever, right? And I think, the next generation is going to look back and say like LLMs, right? Like if you could spend 2 hours a day learning about LLMs for those people that have the time, maybe it's 2 hours a week, you can be so differentiated in today's market. It's like unbelievable. And it can help you with your job search as well as talking about things in the internet interview process and then eventually when you land. What are your last kind of pieces of advice to HR professionals looking for their next role in today's super competitive market?
So I'd say, yeah, think about your LinkedIn profile almost as that beautifully put together in very impressively few seconds presentation. Just like think about polish. So, have well, this is a weird little hack, but this one person I placed them twice. Not they had a job in between. I don't poach my own clients, but this one person who's an amazing people pro in her own right, just got to the icing on the cake by having her little picture, not the photo, not the little headshot, but the broader banner at the top of her LinkedIn was her microphone in hand speaking to a large conference. And the picture tells 1,000 words. All of a sudden, she said, "Oh my God, she must have gravitas. All these people are watching and listening to her." Um, and she looked happy up there as well. She was all smiles and so just think about what's going to be a wow experience for a recruiter who's looking at this profile. Because you kind of need to wow. Unfortunately, you might not have that many seconds of their attention, and there's so much competition out there. Are there any unforced errors, any kind of own goals? And it can be other little things too, like those weird gray rectangles that look like, I guess, an image of a bit of an office building. If you haven't linked your experience with Company X to Company X's page on LinkedIn, you're just gonna, it says you're working for Adobe or whatever, and then you got these gray panels. It's like, do they really work for Adobe? Why didn't they ever link it to the company page, that particular line of their LinkedIn history? So just anything that looks a little unpolished, you have an honest look, maybe with a trusted friend by your side, at every aspect of your LinkedIn, and ask them, is this a wow profile? What can I do better?
Well, that was a really great answer, and I'm not sure I have something to necessarily compete with that. But of things I haven't mentioned, I'm going to keep coming back to the ATS side of things. I would say you need to have a really strong base resume so that you can create these ATS optimized resumes as quickly and effectively as possible. JobScan has a free resume builder, which truly there are no real free resume builders out there. You usually build them, and then when you get to the end, you have to pay for it. But we have a free one that helps you optimize for ATS. And then my other tip, which I feel like Peter might have mentioned at the beginning, is where you're not using keywords, focus on measurable results, things that you can quantify. Um, Even if I saw one person said, I don't have anything I can quantify. Yes, you do. If it's, you managed X amount of people, or you showed this percentage of growth. I think this is kind of outside of ATS, but what any recruiter or hiring manager wants to see is that not that you want to do something, but that you have done something. And measurable results really show the proof that you can do this because you've done it before.
Yeah, I love it. Amazing advice. I'm going to drop a couple of links in the chat right now. The first are we do have this job board, People Ops Job, where there are daily new roles posted there. I know Peter spends a lot of time on our job board, looking for clients, which I'm I saw Peter transform like 2 months ago, and he's like, I go to your job board every day. It was down for a day, and I was like, oh my God, like that's amazing. I love that you're getting value out of our job board. We don't make any money off of it. If you want to post a job on there, by the way, um, just use this code if you're hiring for your team, free jobs. We just do it to uplift the community, just like these events and everything else, really. So definitely check out that. There's a Slack group that I link to as well, which is great. We have a bunch of upcoming webinars. I'll post those in here as well. And we've had a couple in the past about building your network, how to build your HR network, how to build a fractional practice, a lot of things that have come out in the chat. And so I definitely recommend checking out the webinars. You can kind of watch the past ones at your leisure. And then the future ones are always great. We always have some sort of giveaway to help people. We always do some sort of networking. So especially if you're interested in employee recognition, want to recognize or want to network with folks who are interested in that topic, etc., I definitely recommend you checking those out. We're going to launch a poll in a second or two here to just kind of get feedback. We always want to make these webinars better. How did this align with your expectations? Did you get value out of it? Let us know the real, really what you think about our webinar, because we really do want to get better, and we get better by people telling us their actual feedback. And as we do that, we'll get into Q&A right now as well, because we got a lot of questions when people signed up. And I want to try to get through as many of these as possible in the next like 5 to 6 minutes. So, okay, first question is, you've got entry-level experience, you want to get a specialist role. What's your advice? And I'll just throw these out there, and Paige or Peter, either of you guys can chime in.
You have transferable skills, whether you know it or not. Try to figure out what those are, and focus on certifications and things like that can, puff up your resume.
Here's kind of two related questions here. One is, I'm trying to get into HR from outside of HR. How do I position myself?
So it could be a tough one with so many people with the HR experience probably competing with you. Yeah, I mean, to Paige's transferable skills point, if you have been a leader of people, perhaps, um, a manager, optimizing teams, recognizing good work. You've been flexing some of those muscles, whereas maybe you could be a great HR business partner to other managers, and you've been kind of maybe staying compliant, hopefully, with the relevant laws. Um, I was impressed recently when a client's chief of staff was SHRM certified, again, to Paige's point, even though they've never had an HR job. So certifications can maybe help convince a prospective person who might take a chance on you that you're not just, oh yeah, I'm a people person, I can do HR, but you've actually done the legwork to go through a training program and get certified and pass the test. And then it's a question of packaging those experiences as transferable HRE skills.
Also, objective statements aren't recommended anymore, but a summary statement is. Again, objective statements would have said, like, this is what I'm hoping to bring to the company, where a summary statement will say, this is what I've done and what I can do for you. Those are really great for any kind of career change. It's a good place where you can put some of those keywords that might be important, also mention some of those transferable skills. Just gives you kind of an extra place to explain what you're doing.
How do you handle DEI on your resume and LinkedIn now that it's being eliminated by many companies and state governments due to the new federal requirements? And I imagine that probably relates to expertise in or like maybe a past role that focused on DEI explicitly or as part of your role.
Yeah. Um, I think if you want to, it's so messed up. In my own HR practices, I continue to, promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in my client engagements. But If you are a candidate who thinks that your market value has dropped because that's all over your resume, or that used to be your specialty, you may be onto something in certain circles. So I think it's about transferable skills as well. If your brand of DEI was around, upper funnel or whatever, any stage of the funnel in the recruitment process, then maybe just hopefully for a little while reframe your skills in terms of recruitment. So rather than leading with a DEI thing, you lead with the function that you were supporting, or if it was more internal in nature, and then just talk about your program management skills, HR project management, you know, all the piece parts of these professions, which are highly valuable transferable skills, talk about the elements and just maybe downplay the headline, sadly, because of the weird situation we're in, but all amazing transferable skills.
Yeah. And I would say probably that resonate a lot with most hiring managers in our space, despite the kind of federal
Yeah,
decree at this
exactly.
point.
Yeah. The way people, great HR people think has not changed.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's good. That's good to hear. Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
one more question. I've been in nonprofit for 16 years. Impossible to get interviews. What do you suggest?
So I guess I've worked in nonprofit, by the way, and I most of my career was for profit. So maybe I'm privileged that it was a brief, privileged in many ways, but that it was a brief stint, and I had all this for profit work, to refer back to after the short nonprofit gig. But one thing that I learned is that nonprofit is not a cakewalk. It's actually harder than for profit in lots of ways. Fewer resources, very tight budget control, and because so many people are, in there for the mission as opposed to a paycheck necessarily, it can be like herding cats to actually move a project forward because people have all these different interpretations of the vision and the mission. So anyway, I've got infinite respect for nonprofit. I think you just need to probably go overboard on the impact statements, so it's like abundantly clear for anyone who takes a second with your resume that you actually have got these programs stood up, these dollars saved, these hires gathered on a shoestring budget, and hopefully they'll appreciate that versus getting stuck on you happen to do with this nonprofit organization.
Yeah. Amazing points. And I wish we have more time. Maybe we need to do this again in a few months because we've got questions about, ageism and all sorts of other stuff that we haven't got a chance to get to. But I did want to just because we only have a few minutes left for this offer, if you're in the market to buy HR software, HRIS, ATS, etc., or somebody in your network is too, we really appreciate it when people share this with their network. I'm going to post in the chat again, or the page that kind of talks about our how we help companies. 4.9 star rating, totally free. We really appreciate it if you gotten value out of this webinar to share this with your community, whether it's a Slack group or WhatsApp or a text thread with other friends in HR. We really, really, really appreciate that. And I wanted to say thank you so much to our amazing panelists. I learned a lot. I hope everybody did here as well. Yeah, thank you for the person who started this Google Doc that now has 27 or 30 people in it, just sharing their LinkedIn URLs. I think it's amazing. Abundance mindset, help everybody else out here. I'm going to link also the section takeaways here, or session takeaways, so that you have them. We'll follow up with those over email as well. But thank you everybody for participating. Peter and Paige, amazing insights. Awesome to share this knowledge. Thank you for everybody in the chat for sharing your stories. Okay, Susan's saying, where's the Google Doc? Okay, I'm going to post this real quick in case it got lost. And yeah, I wish everybody the best of luck. Please leverage, JobScan, Peter, the People Ops job board, etc. Keep your mental health up, keep your community going, and I wish you the best of luck in your job search. Hope to see you on another webinar with SSR in the future. Hopefully there's something that piques your interest, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody. All right.